A single book has resisted every expert and supercomputer for over 100 years. This is the story of the Voynich manuscript, a centuries-old artifact that remains the most stubborn puzzle in human history. By the end of our journey, you will understand why this unreadable book forces us to confront the very limits of what we can ever know. We will track its shadowy journey through royal courts and ancient libraries, and examine the bizarre illustrations of impossible plants and mysterious bathing rituals that fill its pages. We will see why even the most advanced artificial intelligence has failed to crack its code, and what its enduring silence might truly mean for us. What does it feel like to hold a secret that may never be told? Its physical journey into the modern world began with a single transaction in a quiet library. In 1912, a Polish book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich was on one of his frequent treasure hunts through Europe, searching for forgotten texts. At a Jesuit college in Italy, he found a collection of items being discreetly sold to raise funds. Among them was a peculiar book, bound in plain vellum, filled with utterly bewildering text and strange, colorful pictures. He purchased it, little knowing that this single act would forever tie his name to the greatest literary mystery on earth. But the manuscript was already ancient by then, a relic waiting centuries for someone to ask its questions. To understand what it might be, we must step back into the world that created it, the European Renaissance. This was an age of explosive curiosity, a time when old knowledge from Greece and Rome was being rediscovered, when science and magic were still intertwined, and when scholars gazed at the stars with both telescopes and astrology charts. Carbon dating of the manuscript's vellum pages tells us they were made from calfskin in the early 1400s, so this object is a genuine artifact from that pivotal moment, a time capsule from the dawn of the modern mind. Yet its trail before 1912 is faint, written in whispers and speculation. There are hints it once resided in the spectacular court of Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II in Prague. Rudolf was the perfect patron for such a mystery. He was less interested in governing and utterly obsessed with the strange and the occult. He spent fortunes assembling a legendary collection called the Kunstkammer, a cabinet of curiosities that held everything from exotic animal specimens to intricate clocks to works by the great artists and scientists of his day. More importantly, he funded alchemists who promised to turn lead into gold and sought the philosopher's stone. In this atmosphere of boundless inquiry, where the lines between chemistry and magic blurred, a book of unreadable secrets would have been a prized possession. So we can trace a plausible, shadowy path. A mysterious book created by an unknown hand in the early 15th century possibly passes into the collection of a Renaissance emperor fascinated by the arcane, then survives wars, religious upheavals, and the slow passage of centuries, only to resurface in a Jesuit library waiting for Wilfrid Voynich. It is a silent witness to incredible change, surviving while empires rose and fell around it. This long journey only deepens the central riddle. Who crafted such an elaborate, beautiful, and meticulously made book in an era before mass production, when every page represented a significant investment of time and resources? And who was it for? Was it meant for a single, enlightened patron like Rudolf, a man who would appreciate a puzzle even he could not solve? Or was its intended audience someone or something else entirely? The manuscript's physical history sets the stage, but it provides no answers, only a deeper, more haunting silence. To truly understand this puzzle, you must first hold it in your hands, at least in your mind. The Voynich manuscript is not a ghost or a rumor. It is a physical book you could tuck under your arm, a codex of about 240 fragile vellum pages. Its size is modest, comparable to a modern paperback, which makes the enormity of its mystery all the more compelling. The material itself speaks of care and expense. each page made from high-quality calfskin, prepared by a meticulous craftsman. Flipping through, you would find several fold-out pages, delicate sheets that unfold to reveal larger, more elaborate diagrams, suggesting these illustrations were meant to be studied in detail, not just glanced at. The inks have defied time, a simple brownish carbon-based script for the text, and a surprisingly vibrant palette of green, blue, red, and yellow for the bewildering illustrations, colors that have remained lively for centuries. The binding you see today is not the original. It was replaced in the early 20th century to preserve the fragile pages within. This physicality is our first and most important clue. The wear on the vellum, the distinct flow of the quill strokes, the very layout of text and image all point to a startling conclusion. This was likely a working document. Someone, or perhaps several someones, used this book. They turned its pages, they consulted its charts, they added to its sections. It was not merely a decorative art piece to be displayed and admired, but a tool with a purpose. This tangible reality grounds our wildest speculations. We are not chasing a phantom, but conducting a forensic analysis of a real artifact that passed through real hands. Every stain, every slight variation in the ink, every carefully drawn star in a cosmic diagram is a silent witness to its own creation. So the question shifts from what is this book to what was it for? What practical need, what urgent inquiry required the creation of a complete, illustrated textbook in a language that no one, it seems, was ever meant to read? The answer, if it exists, is written in the very texture of the page. The text on those vellum pages is where the mystery becomes absolute. It is written in a beautiful, flowing script, a collection of about 20 to 30 distinct, elegant characters that look almost like a blend of Latin and Arabic script, but belong to neither. To the untrained eye, it looks like a real language. You can see clear words separated by spaces, sentences that march across the page in neat paragraphs, and a structure that feels intentional and grammatical. It has all the outward signs of a genuine written communication. This initial impression is so strong that it has fueled over a century of intense cryptographic effort. The first and most obvious assumption was that this was a cipher, a simple substitution code where each of these strange symbols corresponds to a letter in a known language like Latin or Italian. Take a page, map the symbols to letters, and the plain text meaning should simply fall out. This approach has solved countless historical codes, but with the Voynich it failed completely. The text defies this basic logic. When experts attempted these substitutions, the result was gibberish, a chaotic jumble that followed none of the rules of any European language of its time. The words in the Voynich manuscript have a peculiar, almost musical repetition to them. Certain sequences appear again and again throughout the 240 pages. Words like kokti, atolul, and chiodi pop up with a strange, rhythmic frequency. This repetition is not random, however. When linguists and computer scientists apply statistical tools to the text, they uncover something deeply puzzling. The word frequency follows a pattern known as Zipf's law. This is a linguistic rule observed in all natural human languages, where the most common word appears roughly twice as often as the second most common, 3 times as often as the third, and so on. The Voynich text obeys this law perfectly. This finding was a seismic event in the study of the manuscript. It suggests the text is not a random invention or a meaningless scribble. It possesses the deep, underlying statistical fingerprint of a real language. Yet, it is a language with no known ancestor, no known descendant, and no Rosetta Stone to provide a key. Think of it like hearing a conversation in a room next door. The cadence, the rhythm, the rise and fall of the voices all sound perfectly human and conversational. You can even pick out repeated phrases, But when you strain to listen, not a single word is recognizable. It sounds like language, it behaves like language, but it conveys exactly nothing you can understand. This is the cryptographic wall. For decades, the world's best codebreakers, including teams from both world wars who had cracked formidable military ciphers, turned their skills to the Voynich. They applied every technique from complex polyalphabetic ciphers to anagramming. Each time, the manuscript yielded nothing. It resisted logical, systematic assault. This consistent, total failure forces a profound shift in perspective. The manuscript may not be a cipher hiding a known language at all. It might be something far stranger, a written record of a language that existed only for this book, or a sophisticated linguistic construct with its own internal logic that was never meant to be translated. The impenetrability of the script is what ultimately pushes our search away from the text itself. If the words refuse to speak, perhaps the pictures can. These vibrant illustrations open a door into a world just as strange as the text. The first major section of the manuscript is devoted entirely to plants, page after page of stunning, full-color botanical drawings. At first glance, you might think you are looking at a medieval herbal, a practical guide used by healers and apothecaries to identify medicinal herbs. The pages are dominated by a single, central plant, its roots exposed, its stem rising to detailed leaves and intricate flowers. The artistry is undeniable, with careful shading and a naturalistic flow that suggests the illustrator was intimately familiar with real botanical forms. But that initial familiarity shatters upon closer inspection. Look at the root system of one specimen, and you might recognize the tuberous shape of a common beet. Follow the stem upward to leaves that unmistakably belong to a common plantain. But then, crowning this impossible amalgamation, is a flower that looks like nothing from a European meadow, perhaps a fantastical bloom with layered petals resembling a stylized rose from a distant continent. This is the rule, not the exception. None of the 113 illustrated plants can be conclusively matched to any known species that has ever existed on Earth. They are chimeras, beautiful and logical impossibilities built from familiar parts. One theory suggests these are not literal plants at all, but a visual code. In the alchemical traditions of the manuscript's suspected era, plants and their parts often symbolized different stages of a chemical process or represented abstract philosophical concepts. The root might stand for the base material, the stem for transformation, and the flower for the purified, perfected result. In this view, the botanical section is not a field guide, but a textbook of secret operations, where combining the leaf of one real herb with the flower of another was a way to diagram a formula too dangerous or precious to write in plain words. Another, more haunting possibility is that the illustrator was documenting a genuine reality that is now lost to us. Could these represent species that have gone extinct in the centuries since? Or perhaps they are careful drawings of plants from a specific, isolated region of the world that European science had not yet catalogued, their features blurred or reinterpreted by an artist working from second-hand traveler descriptions. The most unsettling interpretation is that they are pure inventions, the product of a boundless imagination unconstrained by the need to depict reality. Yet the meticulous detail argues against mere fantasy. Each plant is rendered with a specificity that implies observation. This creates a profound cognitive dissonance for the viewer. You are studying a document that presents itself with the authority of a scientific record, but its primary evidence points to a reality that does not, and perhaps never did, exist. What do you trust, the earnest detail of the illustration, or the collective knowledge of every botanist who has ever lived? This botanical gallery forces a fundamental question. Are we looking at a failed attempt to document the real world, or a brilliant success at documenting something else entirely? a hidden layer of knowledge where the rules of nature are deliberately rearranged to convey a different kind of truth. The plants, in their serene impossibility, offer no answers, only a deeper, more beautiful confusion. But the strangeness only deepens as we turn the page. The manuscript shifts from an impossible garden to an impossible sky. Here we find a series of breathtaking circular diagrams, intricate wheels of knowledge that pull our gaze upward into the realm of stars and symbols. These are not simple star charts. They are dense, layered cosmic maps populated by tiny, nude female figures that seem to float within castle-like structures or hold celestial objects in their hands. One of the most famous sequences is a set of 12 medallions, each clearly corresponding to a sign of the zodiac. You can identify Taurus the bull and Scorpio the scorpion, familiar symbols from any medieval almanac. Yet the surrounding details are utterly alien. Each zodiac sign is encircled by a ring of these nymph-like figures, perhaps 30 or more per diagram, arranged in peculiar patterns, some pointing inward, some outward, as if engaged in a silent, celestial dance. This is not standard astrology. It suggests a highly personalized, perhaps secret, system for understanding how human fate is woven into the fabric of the cosmos. The figures are not simply decorations. They appear to be integral to the diagram's function, possibly representing constellations, celestial influences, or even spiritual forces. Another stunning fold-out page presents a different kind of map entirely. It shows a circular design with what looks like a central island, surrounded by concentric rings of water, then land, then water again, like a target or a series of fortified walls. Protruding from the outer ring are 9 distinct castle-like structures, each connected by a curious causeway. Some researchers have seen in this a map of a lost world, a mythical island like Atlantis. Others interpret it as a symbolic representation of the known universe, with the central keep being the Earth and the outer castles representing distant lands or even other planets. The most compelling interpretation, however, is that this is a map of the soul. In the mystical traditions that flourished in secret during the manuscript's time, the journey to enlightenment was often depicted as a passage through concentric layers of reality, moving from the outer, material world toward the divine center. Each castle could represent a stage of spiritual initiation, a challenge to be overcome, or a level of secret knowledge to be attained. This celestial and cosmological imagery is our clearest link to the intellectual ferment of the Renaissance. This was an era when astronomy and astrology were two sides of the same coin, when mapping the stars was as much about predicting human destiny as it was about mathematics. It was a time when daring thinkers proposed heretical models of the universe, ideas that could bring them into conflict with powerful institutions. The Voynich diagrams feel like a product of this dangerous, thrilling crossroads. They blend careful observation, the kind needed to chart the zodiac, with profound, personal symbolism that goes far beyond orthodox teaching. This raises a chilling possibility. What if the text is unreadable by design? What if the bizarre plants and the coded cosmic wheels are parts of a grand, protected system? The manuscript may not just contain a secret formula or a forgotten language. It might safeguard an entire worldview, a complete heretical philosophy that fused botany, astronomy, and spirituality into a single, unified vision of creation. To write such ideas down plainly in a known language could have been a death sentence, but to encode them in a beautiful, indecipherable script, accompanied by diagrams that only the initiated could fully understand, that was an act of preservation. The book becomes a vault, and its illustrations are not just puzzles, but the only windows we have into a lost universe of thought. The journey through the manuscript's pages takes its most intimate and perplexing turn. We leave the cosmic wheels and enter a space that feels at once biological and architectural, a realm populated by hundreds of small, nude female figures. Scholars have called them nymphs for their ethereal quality, and they are the heart of the book's most enigmatic section. These figures are not posed in landscapes or classical scenes. Instead, they are integrated into a sprawling, schematic network of green pools, bathtubs, and intricate systems of interconnecting tubes and capsules. It resembles a cross between an ancient plumbing diagram and an illustration from a biology textbook, a fusion of the mechanical and the organic that feels centuries ahead of its time. The nymphs bathe in these vessels, emerge from them, or are connected to them by the strange tubing, creating a sense of a closed, circulating system. One compelling interpretation is that this section depicts a medieval or Renaissance understanding of human reproduction and physiology. In the medical theories of the era, the body was thought to contain channels for various fluids or humors that governed health. These diagrams could be a symbolic map of that inner landscape, with the green pools representing organs or reservoirs, and the tubes mapping the flow of vital forces. The female figures might then symbolize life itself in its generative state. Another strong possibility ties directly to the alchemical traditions we suspect the manuscript engages with. Alchemy was not merely about turning lead into gold. It was a profound spiritual metaphor for inner transformation. A core alchemical process involved distillation, the purification of a substance through repeated heating, vaporization, and condensation in a sealed vessel called an alembic. The images before us could be a direct allegory for this. The nymphs might represent the volatile spirit of the material being purified, moving through the stages of the process, symbolized by the interconnected baths and tubes toward a state of perfection. There is also a historical context for water cures or balneotherapy, which was a respected medicinal practice. The manuscript could be illustrating a specific therapeutic regimen, showing how immersion in different types of waters or herbal infusions, flowing through a prescribed sequence, was believed to restore balance to the body. Yet the interpretation that may resonate most deeply is a spiritual one. Many mystical traditions use the metaphor of cleansing or baptism to represent the purification of the soul. This intricate network, with its many figures undergoing a communal, ritualistic bathing, could chart a path toward enlightenment. Each pool might represent a stage of contemplation or initiation, and the journey through the tubes a passage through trials, leading the individual toward a central, unifying source. The profound ambiguity of these pages is their defining feature. They blur the line between the physical and the metaphysical so completely that we cannot separate them. Is this a guide to healing the body, transforming matter, or purifying the spirit? The manuscript suggests the answer could be all three at once, reflecting a worldview where science, magic, and faith were not separate domains, but interconnected layers of a single, hidden reality. This section forces us to abandon our modern categories. To its creator, a diagram of a plumbing system might perfectly illustrate the flow of spiritual energy, and a drawing of a bathing nymph could equally represent a chemical process or a step in a healing ritual. The images refuse to be pinned down, offering instead a glimpse into a mind that saw unity where we see division. This leaves us with a hauntingly beautiful question. Are we looking at a failed attempt to depict human anatomy, or a brilliant, symbolic success at depicting something far more difficult to capture, the invisible connections that bind the physical self to the universe? But the manuscript's purpose seems to shift once more, moving from symbolic diagrams toward something resembling a practical manual. The pages here are less fantastical, more methodical. They are filled with precise drawings of individual plant parts, a root pulled from the soil, a cluster of leaves, a single flower, each carefully isolated as if for study. Alongside these botanical fragments stand rows of elegant containers, apothecary jars drawn with meticulous detail, their shapes varied and their lids often crowned with a single, distinct star. These are not the chimeric plants from earlier. These are components, ingredients laid out with the clarity of a working recipe book. The arrangement is deliberate and instructional. A root is shown, then a jar, then a line of that baffling script, creating a visual sequence that any herbalist or alchemist of the era would recognize. It suggests a formulary, a collection of instructions for transforming raw materials into something potent and contained. The star on each jar is a tiny, repeating clue. In the symbolic language of the time, a star could mark a vessel holding a distilled essence, a celestial ingredient, or a substance of particular power. This section feels like the beating heart of a possible real-world use. If the cosmic wheels map the heavens and the bathing nymphs chart inner transformation, then these pages may document the tangible bridge between them, the actual creation of the medicines, poisons, or alchemical elixirs that would facilitate that transformation. Suddenly, the mystery acquires a sharp, practical edge. The unreadable text beside each jar is almost certainly the formula, the dosage, the precise method of preparation. Historians of science and medicine look at these pages with a unique kind of frustration. Here, perhaps, are the lost recipes of a forgotten healer, a compilation of herbal knowledge that could rewrite our understanding of 15th century pharmacy. Was this a book of cures, its contents so valuable they were encoded to protect the trade secrets of a master apothecary? Or were the formulas within so dangerous, detailing poisons or mind-altering substances, that encoding them was a matter of safety and secrecy? The care given to the jars themselves speaks volumes. They are not afterthoughts but central characters. Each shape might indicate a specific use: a wide-mouthed jar for salves, a narrow-necked vessel for preserving volatile tinctures, a sealed container for long-term storage. This attention to detail grounds the manuscript's mystery in the physical world of clay and glass, of mortar and pestle, of fire and distillation. It suggests that whatever knowledge the book holds was meant to be acted upon, to result in a physical substance that could be held in one of those very jars. This makes the silence of the text all the more profound. We can see the ingredients and the containers, but the instructions for combining them, the warnings, the quantities, all are locked away in that elegant, meaningless script. It is like having a sophisticated laboratory with every piece of equipment labeled, but every manual written in a language you cannot speak. The potential for understanding is so close, yet completely out of reach. This pharmaceutical section pulls the entire mystery down to earth. It argues against the manuscript being merely a theoretical or philosophical treatise. It points toward utility, toward a hands-on practice that someone, somewhere, needed to perform, which leads to the most compelling question of all. If this knowledge was so important to encode, did it ever actually work? Were these recipes used, and if so, what were they meant to achieve? The very shape of the words on the page offers its own kind of clue. Scattered throughout the manuscript, especially in sections showing those isolated roots and apothecary jars, you find a distinct visual pattern. The dense text is often broken into short, self-contained blocks, and many of these blocks begin with a single, elegant character that looks unmistakably like a little star or a flower. It is a punctuation mark of purpose, a visual anchor point on the vellum. To any historian of medieval manuscripts, this layout is instantly, powerfully familiar. It is the format of a recipe book, an instruction manual, or a book of secrets. This is how you would write down a formula for an ink, a prescription for a medicine, or the steps to create a pigment for an artist. The star is the equivalent of a bullet point, a signal that a new, discrete set of instructions is beginning. Linguists who have analyzed the text statistically have found something remarkable supporting this visual hint. The word distributions inside these starred paragraphs are subtly different from the words found in the sections with the circular zodiac diagrams or the sprawling botanical paintings. The vocabulary shifts, the repetition patterns change. This is exactly what we would expect if the manuscript contained multiple genres of writing. The prose describing a cosmic principle would naturally use different terms than the steps for preparing a specific tincture. So the stars are not random decorations, they are functional signposts, dividing the book's secret knowledge into actionable units. This transforms our understanding of the manuscript's fundamental nature. It argues against the idea that this is a work of history, poetry, or even a straightforward philosophical text. The structure screams procedure. It suggests the content is a sequence of directives, a how-to guide for a complex and likely secretive practice. Think of it like finding an old, unlabeled notebook. If the pages are filled with long, unbroken paragraphs, you might assume it's a diary or a treatise. But if you see lists, numbered steps, and diagrams with labels pointing to parts A and B, you immediately recognize it as a manual, perhaps for building a piece of furniture or conducting a scientific experiment. The Voynich manuscript, through its starred paragraphs, declares itself as the latter. Therefore, that beautiful, unreadable script is almost certainly not telling a story. It is issuing commands, it is listing quantities, describing processes, and noting precautions. Each starred block likely begins with an imperative, something like take the root of the second plant, grind it with 3 measures of spring water, or heat the mixture in the starred jar until the liquid turns blue. The knowledge locked away is kinetic. It is meant to cause something to happen in the real world. This connects every mysterious section into a coherent whole. The fantastical plants provide the ingredients. The cosmic wheels establish the timing or the astrological conditions under which the work should be done. The network of baths and tubes diagrams the apparatus or the internal process the practitioner hopes to achieve, and the starred paragraphs provide the step-by-step instructions to bring it all together. This realization is both a breakthrough and a deeper frustration. We can now guess what the text is doing, but we are no closer to knowing what it says. We are standing before a fully equipped laboratory with ingredients sorted, equipment diagrammed, and a detailed manual open on the bench. But every word of that manual is written in a private language. The purpose of the book comes into sharper focus, yet its specific secrets retreat further behind a veil. What was this practice meant to accomplish? Was it aimed at healing the body, transforming the soul, or creating something entirely new? The manuscript's format tells us it was a tool for action, but the nature of that action remains the most carefully guarded secret of all. If the manuscript is a working manual, then someone must have followed its instructions. Yet there is a stark possibility that no one ever could, because the instructions were never real. This leads us to the most cynical and persistent explanation for the entire mystery, the hoax hypothesis. Could the Voynich manuscript be nothing more than an elaborate, beautiful fraud? The theory is compelling in its simplicity. Imagine a clever forger in the 16th century, perhaps a scholar down on his luck, aware that the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II had a well-known obsession with the occult and a bottomless purse for rare curiosities. Such a person might devise a scheme to create the ultimate mysterious book, a volume so baffling and ornate that the emperor would pay a fortune for the privilege of owning an unsolvable puzzle. The forger would need only to invent a plausible-looking alphabet, fill pages with convincing but nonsensical text, and illustrate it with plants and diagrams that hinted at profound secrets without revealing anything concrete. It would be the perfect con, selling not knowledge but the tantalizing illusion of knowledge. Modern proponents of this idea, like historian and codebreaker Gordon Rugg, have shown how it could be done. They point to a device from that era known as a Cardan grill, a template with holes cut out that, when laid over a table of pre-written syllables or word fragments, allows a user to quickly generate lines of seemingly coherent text. By carefully selecting the fragments, one could even engineer the text to obey statistical rules like Zipf's law, creating that eerie fingerprint of a natural language. The forger would not need to understand cryptography, only the mechanics of a simple, repeatable trick. The bizarre plants support this view. They are not records of lost species, but clever pastiches of familiar parts, designed to look exotic and scholarly without corresponding to any real herb that could disprove the book's authenticity. In this light, the entire manuscript becomes a performance, a theater of mystery staged for a single, wealthy audience. The effort, while significant, would be a calculated investment for a potentially massive payoff. The star-marked paragraphs are not recipes but meaningless procedural noise, crafted to complete the illusion of a functional text. This theory forces us to confront an uncomfortable question about human nature. Is the Voynich manuscript a testament to our endless quest for understanding, or to our equally powerful capacity for deception? Does it represent the height of Renaissance curiosity, or the depth of Renaissance greed? The hoax argument is clean, logical, and dispenses with the need for lost languages or secret sciences. It suggests the mystery is not in the content, but in our own desire to believe there is content there at all. We are the ones giving meaning to the meaningless because the alternative, that such a meticulous work is empty, feels somehow more disturbing than any code. Yet to dismiss the manuscript as a mere hoax feels like a surrender, a refusal to listen to its faint but persistent whisper of structure. This whisper has given rise to the other great camp in this century-long debate, one that believes the book is not empty, but full, its secrets locked away behind a barrier of code or lost language. Here, the theories splinter into a dozen fascinating paths, each attempting to bridge the gap between the text's statistical heartbeat and its utter silence. One prominent idea suggests the manuscript is written in a known language, but using a completely invented alphabet. Imagine a scholar from 15th century Italy, fluent in Latin, who devises a private set of symbols to record his notes. To him, the text is perfectly clear, but to anyone else, it appears as an alien script. This would explain the natural linguistic patterns. The text is a real language, just disguised by a novel wardrobe of characters. Others propose it is a rare or extinct dialect, perhaps a form of early Esperanto created for scholarly exchange, or a vernacular tongue from a small community that vanished without leaving another written record. Then there are the cipher theories, which grow increasingly complex. It might not be a simple substitution cipher, but a polyalphabetic one, where the same symbol can represent different letters depending on its position in the word or a hidden key phrase. Some researchers have suggested it employs a cipher disk or a complex algorithm that requires a physical device now lost to decode. An even more subtle possibility is steganography, the art of hiding a message within another message. Perhaps the true content is not in the text itself, but encoded in the number of petals on a drawn flower, the specific arrangement of stars in a diagram, or the subtle curves of the nymph's poses. The text, in this view, could be an elegant decoy, a beautiful red herring to draw attention away from the real clues hidden in plain sight. The pursuit of these theories has mobilized some of the finest analytical minds of the modern age. During the Second World War, William Friedman, the legendary American cryptologist who helped break the Japanese purple cipher, turned his formidable team toward the Voynich during quieter moments. They applied the same rigorous techniques used against enemy codes, treating the manuscript as the ultimate cryptographic challenge. They emerged empty-handed. In recent decades, armies of computer scientists have subjected the text to relentless algorithmic analysis, using pattern recognition and machine learning to search for any hidden grammar or syntactic rule that human eyes have missed. These digital efforts have confirmed the text's eerie coherence but have never produced a translatable result. This enduring failure is itself a kind of data point. It suggests that if the manuscript is a cipher, it is a masterpiece of the craft, one that has resisted not just human intuition but computational brute force. The very fact that so many brilliant people have tried and failed keeps this theory vitally alive. It speaks to a fundamental human drive, the conviction that where we see intricate pattern, there must be purposeful meaning. We are pattern-finding creatures by nature, wired to see faces in clouds and hear words in static. The Voynich manuscript presents us with the ultimate test of that instinct. Is our relentless search for its meaning a noble pursuit of hidden truth, or are we, like the emperor who may have purchased it, simply captivated by the reflection of our own curiosity in its impenetrable surface? The book holds up a mirror, and in it we see not its author but ourselves, forever trying to read the unreadable. The manuscript's strangeness finds its most compelling home in the world of Renaissance alchemy. This was not merely primitive chemistry, but a profound philosophical and spiritual discipline that sought nothing less than the perfection of matter and spirit. Its practitioners believed that by understanding and manipulating the natural world, they could unlock its deepest secrets, from transmuting base metals into gold to discovering an elixir that granted eternal youth. Because these goals were both coveted and dangerous, alchemists developed a rich tradition of secrecy. They wrote in coded languages, used symbolic pseudonyms for common substances, and illustrated their processes with elaborate, allegorical imagery designed to be meaningless to the uninitiated. Viewed through this lens, the Voynich manuscript stops being an anomaly and starts to look like a classic, if exceptionally beautiful, example of the genre. The bizarre plants are no longer failed botany but perfect alchemical emblems. In these coded texts, a common dandelion might symbolize the element of air, while a rose represented the perfected final product. A plant that combined roots, leaves, and an impossible flower could be a diagram for an entire multi-stage operation, showing the starting material, the transformative process, and the glorious result all in one image. The mysterious bathing nymphs fit seamlessly into this worldview. A core alchemical process was called the Bath of the King, where the raw material was dissolved and purified in a sealed vessel, often depicted as a fountain or a pool. The nude figures emerging from or connected to the green tubs could represent the volatile spirit of the material being cleansed and reborn through repeated distillation. The intricate network of tubes mirrors the drawings of alembics and circulatory systems found in genuine alchemical manuscripts, charts of an invisible, vital flow. Even the celestial wheels find their purpose here. Alchemy was deeply tied to astrology, believing that planetary alignments influenced the success of their operations. Timing was everything. A diagram mapping the zodiac with intricate patterns of stars and figures could be a precise calendar, indicating the exact astrological moment to begin a distillation or to combine ingredients. The manuscript, in this theory, becomes a complete, integrated manual. It provides the symbolic ingredients, diagrams the apparatus and process, and even supplies the cosmic schedule. The text, then, is the final layer of protection. It could be a description of the processes in a deliberately obscured language, or it might be the mantras or incantations believed to empower the physical work. This transforms our understanding of the book's silence. It is not a hoax meant to deceive, but a sacred text meant to conceal. Its code was a necessary shield, protecting powerful knowledge from those who might misuse it, and reserving it for those who had undergone the proper spiritual and intellectual preparation. The manuscript was a gateway, and its indecipherability was the lock. This idea carries a profound implication. It suggests the Voynich manuscript may represent a lost school of thought, a complete esoteric system that fused science, art, and mysticism into a single path toward enlightenment. Its author was not a forger, but a master, and its pages hold not a lie, but a legacy that remains just out of reach, waiting for a key that may have been lost to time. The arrival of the computer age promised a final, definitive answer. If human minds over centuries had failed, perhaps silicon brains, with their limitless patience and flawless memory, could succeed. Researchers began feeding the Voynich script into statistical models, treating it not as a literary work but as a pure dataset, a river of symbols to be mapped and measured. They deployed artificial neural networks, the same technology that powers facial recognition and language translation, training them to find patterns invisible to the human eye. The results were and remain profoundly contradictory. Some algorithms confidently declared the text possessed the grammatical skeleton of a natural human language, perhaps a lost dialect from Asia Minor. Others concluded with equal certainty that it was a systematic, invented code, a complex artificial language with its own engineered rules. The machines could describe the forest in exquisite detail, but they could not tell us what any single tree meant. This computational stalemate highlights a crucial truth about the manuscript. It is not a lock waiting for a bigger hammer. It is a puzzle that requires a key, a foundational insight into the mind of its creator. Without that initial spark of human understanding, even the most powerful artificial intelligence can only spin in circles, confirming the patterns but never revealing the purpose. The most famous recent attempt came in 2019, when an academic made headlines by claiming a breakthrough. Using an algorithm, he proposed that the manuscript was written in a form of abbreviated cipher-shifted Hebrew. His method involved anagramming the words, a technique that can, with enough flexibility, produce phrases in almost any language. The scholarly community quickly and overwhelmingly disputed the findings, pointing out that the proposed translation was highly speculative and the methodology unreliable. It was a pattern seen many times before, a flash of hope extinguished by rigorous scrutiny. What these digital endeavors prove is that the Voynich manuscript is more than a cryptographic challenge. It is a philosophical one. It asks us where meaning truly resides. Is it solely in the statistical relationships between symbols, something a machine can quantify? Or is it in the shared cultural context, the historical moment, the unspoken intentions of the author, all the fragile human things that no scanner can detect? The computers have given us a deeper appreciation for the manuscript's fiendish complexity, but in doing so, they have also deepened the mystery. They have shown us that the wall we face is not made of data, but of time and lost understanding. We are left with a humbling realization. We possess tools that can model the birth of galaxies and predict the folding of proteins, yet we cannot read a single coherent sentence from a book created 600 years ago in our own world by a human hand. The silence persists not for lack of effort, but because the conversation it represents may be one we have simply forgotten how to hear. The silence of the manuscript has proven to be a powerful kind of voice. Its mystery has echoed far beyond the hushed halls of rare book libraries, escaping into the wilds of popular culture where it has taken on a life of its own. The Voynich manuscript is no longer just a historical artifact. It is a modern icon, a symbol of the ultimate unsolved puzzle. Its very indecipherability has become its greatest strength, transforming it into a perfect blank canvas for our collective imagination. In a world saturated with information, it offers something rare, a genuine question without an answer, a permanent invitation to wonder. This allure has propelled it into novels, where it serves as a map to hidden treasures or a code left by ancient aliens. It appears in video games as a powerful, mystical artifact that grants players esoteric knowledge. Bands have written concept albums inspired by its cryptic pages, and online forums buzz 24 hours a day with theories from amateur cryptographers from every corner of the globe. It even made a memorable appearance in a television series dedicated to the paranormal, presented as evidence of a truth too strange for official history. In each of these incarnations, the manuscript plays the same essential role. It is the ultimate mystery box. It represents the thrilling idea that history is not a closed book, but a landscape still hiding profound secrets just beyond the light of our understanding. This cultural footprint reveals something fundamental about us. We are drawn to the edges of the known. We crave narratives of lost wisdom and hidden codes, stories that suggest the world is more intricate and mysterious than it appears. The Voynich manuscript perfectly satisfies that craving. It requires no special training to appreciate its core mystery. Anyone can look at its strange script and feel the pull of the unknown. This has fostered dedicated communities of modern-day solvers, ordinary people applying their spare time and diverse skills to the centuries-old challenge. They approach it with fresh eyes, using tools its creator could never have envisioned, from crowd-sourced analysis to homegrown algorithms. While academic research continues methodically, this popular fascination operates with a different, more democratic energy. It is driven by a shared love of the puzzle itself, the pure joy of the hunt. The manuscript's true legacy, therefore, may not be locked in its vellum pages at all, but reflected in the endless conversation it has sparked. It stands as a permanent monument to human curiosity, a reminder that the desire to solve, to know, to uncover, is itself a powerful and enduring force. It asks us not just what it means, but why we so desperately need it to mean something. In its beautiful, frustrating silence, it holds up a mirror, and we see not a forgotten language, but our own timeless desire for discovery. Perhaps the greatest secret of the Voynich manuscript is not within its pages, but within ourselves. Our relentless, centuries-long obsession with this book speaks to a fundamental quirk of the human mind. Cognitive scientists have a term for this, the zygonic effect. It is the psychological principle that unfinished tasks or unresolved patterns create a kind of mental tension, a cognitive itch that our brains are compelled to scratch. We are wired for closure, an incomplete story, an unanswered question, an interrupted melody. These things lodge in our thoughts and demand resolution. The Voynich manuscript is the ultimate unfinished task. It presents a pattern of immense complexity and beauty, a pattern that obeys rules we can sense but cannot name. This creates a perfect, elegant itch, one that has spanned generations. Each failed attempt at translation does not deter us. It deepens the itch, reinforcing the tantalizing sense that the answer is just out of reach. This is why a retired professor or a curious software engineer can lose years to this puzzle, chasing a solution with the same dedication as a professional cryptographer. The manuscript offers a pure, intellectual chase, a mystery stripped of any immediate real-world consequence. There is no treasure map leading to physical gold, no historical revelation that will rewrite our politics. The reward is the solution itself, the sheer, unadulterated joy of cracking the code. This safety is its gift. It allows for boundless, creative speculation without risk. We can entertain ideas about lost languages, alchemical secrets, or even visitors from other worlds, because the stakes exist only in the realm of thought. It becomes a playground for the intellect, a sandbox where the rules of evidence can be gently bent in the service of wonder. This psychological perspective helps explain the manuscript's unique and enduring democracy. It does not discriminate. A Nobel laureate in physics and a high school student with a passion for puzzles approach it on surprisingly equal footing, both captivated by the same elegant, silent text. The book's mystery is a great leveler, reminding us that curiosity is a universal human trait, not the sole property of experts. In a world filled with answered questions and solved equations, the Voynich manuscript stands as a rare and precious monument to the unknown. It satisfies a deep, perhaps ancient, human need to wonder, to explore the edges of our understanding, and to confront a riddle that, for now, refuses to surrender. But history offers a strange kind of comfort in shared frustration. The Voynich manuscript is not a solitary anomaly in the human story, but part of a small, stubborn family of undeciphered scripts. Across time and continents, other cultures have left behind written records that speak only in silence. Consider the elegant symbols of the Indus Valley script, etched onto seals and tablets over 4,000 years ago in what is now Pakistan and India. Thousands of these short inscriptions exist, yet without a bilingual key. Their messages about one of the world's earliest urban civilizations remain locked away. Then there is Linear A, a script used by the Minoan civilization on ancient Crete, a precursor to the deciphered Linear B. It taunts us with its familiarity, its clay tablets recording administrative details of a sophisticated palace culture, but the language it conveys is lost. On the remote shores of Easter Island, wooden tablets bear the cryptic glyphs of Rongorongo, a writing system that appeared in isolation, a flicker of literacy in the vast Pacific that faded before it could be explained to the outside world. Placing the Voynich alongside these mysteries is illuminating. It shows a universal human impulse to record, to communicate across time, and the equally universal tragedy of that communication failing. Yet the comparison also sharpens the peculiar nature of our manuscript. The Indus script and Linear are largely found on small, functional objects, seals, and tablets. Rongorongo survives on only a handful of artifacts. The Voynich, by contrast, is an entire book, a lavish and continuous narrative of images and text that stretches over 200 pages. It provides a visual context the others lack. We are not guessing at its subject matter. We can see its impossible plants, its celestial wheels, its bathing nymphs. This wealth of illustration should be a colossal advantage, a set of clues the other scripts would envy. And yet, it has proven to be just another layer of the puzzle, not the key. The core challenge uniting all these enigmas is the absence of a Rosetta Stone. That famous slab discovered in Egypt contained the same decree written in ancient Greek, Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. The known Greek provided the key to unlock the unknown hieroglyphs. For the Voynich, for Linear A, for Rongorongo, no such bilingual text has ever been found. There is no parallel page where a strange plant is labeled with its name in Latin, no star chart annotated in a known language. The manuscript stands alone, a monologue in a language of one. This isolation is what makes the Voynich uniquely, exquisitely frustrating. The other undeciphered scripts come from cultures that are themselves distant and partially lost to time. The Voynich was created in 15th century Europe, a period we know intimately, a world of documented kings, well-understood art styles, and thoroughly studied intellectual movements. It is an alien artifact that somehow landed in the middle of our own historical backyard. We have countless other manuscripts from the same era that we can read perfectly, detailing everything from medicine to poetry to law. We know the context, we know the materials, we know the possible influences, and yet this one book, sitting squarely within that well-lit corridor of history, remains a door we cannot open. It whispers from the center of our understanding, not from its shadowy edges. This comparative view does not bring us closer to a solution, but it does reframe the question. The mystery is no longer just about what the Voynich says, but about why this particular document from this particular time has resisted when so much around it has been revealed. Is its silence a historical accident, a fluke of preservation where the key was lost? Or is it a deliberate, masterful achievement, a lock so perfectly crafted that even the context of its own creation is not enough to pick it? Perhaps the text was never meant to be read on its own. What if the Voynich manuscript's greatest trick has been to split our attention, forcing us to stare at its words while its pictures hold the true map? This leads to a radical shift in strategy, a semiotic approach. Instead of treating the manuscript as a code to be cracked, some researchers now see it as a complete symbolic ecosystem, where text and image are two halves of a single language. In this view, the strange script does not simply describe the illustrations beside it, it interacts with them. The bizarre plant on the page might be an ideogram, a visual symbol representing a complex idea, like a concept of purity or a stage of transformation. The text flowing around it could then be a kind of coded commentary, detailing its properties, uses, or the rituals associated with it, but in a language that only makes sense if you first understand the symbolic value of the image. It is a medieval emoji system of incredible sophistication, where a drawing of a root combined with a specific flower carries a precise, hidden meaning that the accompanying text merely annotates. This would explain why the plants feel both familiar and alien. They are not attempts at realism, but carefully constructed emblems from a lost symbolic lexicon. The bathing nymphs and celestial wheels fit perfectly into this model. They are not literal scenes, but diagrams of processes, with each figure and tube acting as a variable in a philosophical or alchemical equation. The text then might be the operator, the instructions for how to manipulate those variables. To decode it, you would not need a linguistic Rosetta Stone, but a key to the visual grammar, a guidebook to this forgotten iconography. Every star on a jar, every fold in a nymph's pose, every petal count on an impossible bloom becomes a critical piece of data. This perspective turns the entire manuscript into a single, sprawling infographic, a pre-modern attempt to convey multidimensional knowledge through an integrated system of signs. The frustration of centuries may stem from a simple categorical error. We have been trying to read a painting and listen to a symphony at the same time, without realizing they are the same piece of music. Yet there exists a darker, more cunning possibility. What if the illustrations are not the key, but the lockpick meant to break our concentration? In the world of espionage and secret writing, the most effective codes often include plausible distractions, layers of false information meant to lead investigators down endless dead ends. The stunning, vivid paintings in the Voynich could be the ultimate red herring. A forger or a secretive author might have filled the pages with captivating but meaningless imagery precisely to focus all analytical energy there, away from a more subtle secret hidden in the text structure itself. Perhaps the true message is not in the content of the words, but in their arrangement, the spacing, or even in the physical properties of the ink and vellum, clues that require a chemical or microscopic analysis to uncover. The images in this scenario are a magician's flourish, a beautiful gesture that directs your gaze to the wrong hand. They are the siren song of the puzzle, luring generations of brilliant minds onto the rocks of botanical and astrological analysis, while the real treasure lies buried elsewhere. This idea forces a humbling self-reflection. Our human brains are irresistibly drawn to narrative and pattern, especially visual ones. The manuscript's creator, whether a genius or a grifter, may have understood this psychology perfectly. By giving us so much to look at, they ensured we would never truly learn how to listen. So we are left at a crossroads between two profound interpretations. One suggests the images are the central text, a silent language waiting for a visual translator. The other warns they are an elegant trap, a garden of forking paths designed to consume our curiosity forever. Both possibilities, however, point toward a single, unsettling conclusion. We may have been asking the wrong question of this book for over a century. We have begged its text to speak when we should have been learning, patiently and quietly, how to see. Even the margins of the manuscript hold whispers of confusion. On a handful of pages, under the strong, elegant lines of the primary script, a fainter, later hand has written notes. These bits of marginalia are not in the mysterious language of the book itself, but in plain, readable Latin. They appear to be the jottings of a later owner, someone trying to make sense of the baffling content, perhaps attempting to index the plants or decipher the diagrams. One such note, dated to the 17th century, simply reads Jacob's Tepanes. This is a crucial, fragile thread. It is the sound of a human voice centuries closer to the book's creation, expressing the same bewilderment we feel today. The owner was likely Jacobus Horsaki de Tepanek, a prominent pharmacist and personal physician to Emperor Rudolf II. His name, faintly inscribed, ties the physical book directly to the very court we suspected it might have inhabited. This should be a moment of revelation, a key sliding into a lock. Yet, like everything with the Voynich, the clarity is an illusion. The note does not explain the book, it only proves that Jacob, a man of immense learning with access to the finest libraries and minds of his age, could not explain it either. He owned it, he handled it, he likely spent years pondering its pages, and the best he could do was to write his own name in the margin, a tiny claim of ownership over a vast territory of the unknown. These later editions are haunting. They show us that the manuscript's mystery is not a product of our modern distance, but was present at its source. The silence we hear today is the same silence that Jacob heard in his study in Prague 400 years ago. It connects us to him across the centuries, not through shared understanding, but through shared frustration. We are both left with the same unanswered questions, staring at the same beautiful, impenetrable pages. Who was Jacob to this book? Was he its custodian, its student, or simply another collector captivated by an unsolvable riddle? His note offers no answers, only a deeper historical anchor for the mystery itself, proving that some puzzles are born timeless. The manuscript's silence has become its most valuable asset. Beyond the intellectual chase, the Voynich manuscript is a physical object of staggering worth, a paradox where the absence of meaning translates directly into immense material and cultural value. Today, it resides under carefully controlled conditions in the vaults of the Botanic Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University, one of the most famous and visited items in their entire collection. While its precise insurance value is a closely guarded secret, experts agree it is essentially incalculable, a figure that would reach into the tens of millions. This is not merely for its age or its vellum, but for its unique status as the world's most famous unsolved puzzle. Its worth is a direct function of its mystery. The less we understand it, the more we value it. This creates a fascinating economic loop. The manuscript's prestige draws continuous streams of researchers, whose published papers and conferences further amplify its fame, which in turn increases its cultural capital and allure for the public. Tourists travel to New Haven hoping for a glimpse of it during rare exhibitions. Documentaries are filmed about it, and news cycles reignite with every claimed, though ultimately unproven, breakthrough. It exists in a unique category, a priceless artifact that is also, conceptually, the ultimate enigmatic commodity. Imagine a famous painting by a master artist, its value derived from beauty, technique, and historical significance. Now imagine that same painting, but the artist's identity, the subject, and the date of creation are all complete mysteries. The painting's value would not diminish, it would skyrocket, because the mystery itself becomes a core part of its provenance. The Voynich manuscript is that painting. Its blank spots in history are not voids, but spaces we have filled with our collective fascination, and that fascination has a tangible weight. It is a relic that generates its own economy of attention, drawing funding for preservation, inspiring academic careers, and fueling a global community of amateur sleuths. This transforms our understanding of the object. It is no longer just a historical document to be solved. It is a cultural icon that performs a function. Its very existence asks a profound question about what we value. Do we cherish knowledge itself, or do we perhaps cherish the pursuit of knowledge even more? The manuscript, safe in its climate-controlled case, has achieved a kind of immortality, not through the secrets it may hold, but through the endless conversation its silence guarantees. It is a treasure whose primary currency is not gold but wonder. Solving the Voynich manuscript would be a triumph of human intellect, but it might also be the beginning of a profound dilemma. The ethical questions surrounding its potential decipherment are as layered as the manuscript's own pages, forcing us to consider what happens after the mystery ends. First, there is the question of content. If the text reveals itself to be a practical manual of Renaissance alchemy or proto-chemistry, it could contain formulas for substances that are, by modern standards, highly dangerous. Instructions for distilling potent toxins, creating explosive compounds, or even cultivating psychoactive plants might lie within those starred paragraphs. Would there be a moral or even legal obligation to restrict access to such knowledge, to treat the translation like a controlled substance? The manuscript's value has always been in its silence, a neutral canvas for our curiosity. A dangerous revelation would transform it into something else entirely, an object that demands not just study but governance. Beyond public safety, a successful decipherment would trigger fierce battles over ownership. Who holds the right to a 600-year-old secret once it is unlocked? Is it the institution that physically possesses the book, the scholar or team who cracks the code, or does it belong to humanity as a whole? The potential for commercial exploitation is significant. A proven translation could lead to patents derived from ancient herbal remedies, copyrights on the decoded text, or exclusive publishing deals worth millions. This commodification of a historical artifact could distort research, incentivizing secrecy and competition over the collaborative, open scholarship that has characterized the quest for so long. The very process of solving it could fracture the global community of interest that the manuscript has built. The methods of modern decipherment themselves carry risk. Advanced imaging techniques, while non-invasive, still require exposing the fragile vellum to light and pressure. More speculative proposals involve microscopic sampling of ink to analyze its chemical composition, a process that, however carefully done, permanently alters the artifact. Is the potential knowledge worth a single, irreversible physical change to the book? Furthermore, the rush to apply artificial intelligence introduces the peril of false positives. An algorithm might produce a plausible-sounding translation based on statistical pattern matching, not true linguistic understanding. If such a claim were prematurely celebrated and publicized, it could set back genuine research for decades, creating a thicket of misleading assumptions that future scholars must painfully untangle. The quest for truth could inadvertently bury it deeper. All of this leads to a haunting, reflective pause. For over a century, we have asked what the Voynich manuscript says. We have rarely stopped to ask if we are truly prepared for the answer. Some doors, once opened, change the room forever. The manuscript's enduring enigma has granted it a protected status, allowing it to be a symbol of limitless possibility. The moment it becomes a known text with a fixed meaning and a documented purpose, it loses that magical ambiguity. Its value shifts from the potential of the unknown to the concrete, and possibly mundane or troubling reality of the known. In our relentless drive to solve, we must ponder a final, delicate question. Is the mystery itself, with all the wonder and unity it inspires, perhaps more valuable than any secret it could possibly contain? The silence of the Voynich is a sanctuary for curiosity. Breaking that silence would be an act of profound archaeological power, and like all power, it demands great responsibility. The quiet halls of academia are no longer the only battlefield in this centuries-old war. Today, the fight to understand the Voynich manuscript has moved onto vast digital planes, where silicon brains and global crowds wage a new kind of campaign. Artificial intelligence, the most powerful pattern recognition tool ever devised, has been enlisted in the effort. Researchers feed the elegant script into neural networks trained on thousands of human languages, from living tongues to ancient deciphered scripts. The goal is not human intuition, but brute force statistical analysis at a scale impossible for any single scholar. These models map the text's terrain with inhuman precision, confirming its eerie linguistic structure, yet they consistently fail to produce a translation that satisfies human experts. They can describe the skeleton of the language in exquisite detail, but they cannot tell us what it means to say. This is the paradox of the machine age. We possess tools that can model the climate of Mars, yet they remain mute before a book from our own world. The artificial intelligence does not solve the mystery. It simply holds up a mirror, showing us the reflection of a pattern so coherent it demands an explanation we still cannot provide. Alongside these digital titans works a human army, scattered across the globe but united by a shared obsession. Online forums and dedicated crowdsourcing platforms have transformed the decipherment effort into a truly democratic endeavor. A retired engineer in Tokyo can share a theory with a linguistics student in Buenos Aires over breakfast, while a software developer in Berlin runs a custom algorithm overnight. This collective brainpower represents an unprecedented resource, a hive mind attacking the puzzle from every conceivable angle: historical, cryptographic, linguistic, and artistic. The barriers to entry have vanished. Anyone with curiosity and an internet connection can join the hunt. This has led to moments of genuine collaborative insight, where a fresh perspective from outside traditional academia notices a subtle pattern in the star charts or a possible link to a forgotten medicinal practice. The wisdom of the crowd in its boundless diversity is now part of the manuscript story. Yet this very openness generates its own formidable challenge, a deafening roar of digital noise. For every thoughtful, well-researched hypothesis shared in these communities, a dozen more spring from overeager pattern matching or wishful thinking. Every year, without fail, new solutions erupt across social media and niche websites. One week, a poster claims to have proven the text is encoded Turkish. The next, an elaborate video essay argues it is a manual for medieval memory techniques. Many of these claims are backed by sincere passion and intricate, self-consistent logic, but they almost always crumble under peer review or fail to translate more than a few suggestive lines. The signal-to-noise ratio becomes desperately low. This constant churn of speculation can obscure genuine progress, burying a fragile new idea under a landslide of debunked theories. The manuscript's silence, once a vacuum, is now filled with a cacophony of voices all claiming to have broken it. This modern dilemma forces us to ask a critical question about the nature of the puzzle itself. Are these distributed technological approaches our best hope, or are they fundamentally mismatched to the challenge? The Voynich manuscript may not be a lock that yields to a bigger key, but a door that requires a specific, subtle turn of the wrist. It might demand not more data, but a singular flash of human insight, a contextual clue that no algorithm can generate, and that might be drowned out in the noisy marketplace of online ideas. The collaborative digital age offers us infinite processing power and global connectivity, but it cannot guarantee the quiet moment of genius, the accidental connection made in a physical library that may one day provide the key. We are searching for a whisper from the 15th century, using tools that excel at hearing everything at once. The greatest risk is not that we will never solve the Voynich, but that we might solve it and never hear the solution over the din of our own endless, enthusiastic speculation. The Voynich manuscript forces us to stare into an uncomfortable void, the possibility that some human creations are built to be permanently misunderstood. This is not a temporary failure of our methods, but a fundamental feature of the artifact itself. It presents a profound philosophical challenge to our deepest assumption that with enough time, enough data, and enough cleverness, every human-made pattern can eventually be decoded and explained. We live in an age of answers where search engines retrieve information in milliseconds and satellites map every inch of our planet. We are conditioned to believe that all mysteries are merely puzzles awaiting the right solver. The manuscript's enduring silence is a powerful counterargument. It suggests there may be categories of knowledge that slip through the net of history, not by accident, but by design or by the sheer fragility of the context needed to understand them. This is the idea of permanent epistemological failure, the sobering realization that some doors in the library of human experience are locked and the keys have been melted down. The manuscript embodies a specific kind of loss, not of an object but of the operating manual for its own meaning. Think of a song recorded on a strange, obsolete format, played on a machine no one knows how to build anymore. The physical medium survives, but the technology to hear its music is gone. The Voynich is that song, written in a language for which the dictionary has been lost. This challenges a comforting narrative of historical progress. We like to believe we are steadily recovering the past, piecing together a more complete picture with each archaeological dig and archival discovery. The manuscript sits in the middle of that picture like a deliberate blur, a reminder that our map of history is filled with blank spaces we may never fill. It humbles our tools, both ancient and modern. The finest cryptographers of 2 world wars, armed with logic and pattern recognition, were defeated. The most advanced artificial intelligence, capable of modeling complex systems, can only describe the shape of the mystery, not penetrate its core. This consistent failure across centuries and technological paradigms is itself a form of data. It tells us that the obstacle is not a lack of processing power, but a missing link in the chain of understanding that time has broken. So what do we do when faced with a question that may have no answer? The manuscript's greatest lesson may not be about the past, but about our posture toward the unknown in the present. It invites us to cultivate a different kind of intellectual courage, the courage to appreciate the question itself. There is a unique beauty and value in a sustained mystery. It keeps curiosity alive, fosters collaborative communities across generations, and forces humility upon experts and amateurs alike. The manuscript does not merely represent lost knowledge, it actively generates a living tradition of wonder and inquiry. Its pages are a sanctuary for possibility, where 100 different theories can coexist because none can claim final victory. In a world rushing to explain and categorize everything, the Voynich manuscript stands as a monument to the virtue of not knowing. It teaches us that some puzzles are not meant to be solved but to be pondered. Their purpose is to stretch the imagination, to remind us of the vastness of human creativity and the limits of our own perception. To accept this is not a surrender but a maturation. It is the recognition that the unknown is not an enemy to be conquered, but a companion on the journey of understanding, a silent teacher that shows us, with elegant and frustrating grace, where our knowledge ends and the true mystery begins. The frantic search for a solution can blind us to the manuscript's quiet, inherent beauty. Step back from the code, set aside the theories, and simply look at the pages. What remains is a breathtaking work of art, a testament to an anonymous hand's immense patience and skill. The illustrations, for all their botanical impossibility, are rendered with a delicate, whimsical grace. Each curling leaf is shaded with care. Each impossible flower blooms with a vibrant confidence in greens, blues, and reds that have lasted centuries. The nymphs in their bathing pools are not crude sketches, but figures drawn with a gentle, flowing line, their poses suggesting a serene, communal ritual. There is a softness to these images, a dreamlike quality that transcends their potential function as coded diagrams. They invite you not to decipher, but to simply see. The script itself, divorced from its maddening meaning, is a masterpiece of calligraphic elegance. It flows across the vellum with a rhythmic, musical consistency, each character formed with a confident, practiced stroke. The lines of text curve and march in neat paragraphs, creating a visual texture that is both orderly and strangely organic, like vines growing across a trellis. The overall effect is one of profound harmony, where image and text are balanced on the page not as rivals, but as partners in a silent visual symphony. As an aesthetic object from the late medieval period, the Voynich offers a rare glimpse into a unique artistic sensibility. It exists at a fascinating crossroads, blending the keen observational eye of the Renaissance with the boundless, symbolic imagination of the medieval mind. The artist observed the real world closely enough to render a root system with botanical accuracy, yet felt free to combine those observations into creations that never grew in any earthly soil. This is not failed science but liberated art. It reflects a worldview where the boundary between what is seen and what is imagined was beautifully porous. To engage with a manuscript on this level is to appreciate the sheer human effort it represents. Consider the labor, each page of fine vellum carefully prepared, each illustration painstakingly drawn and colored with handmade pigments, each line of that elegant script inscribed with a quill that needed constant dipping. This was not a project of weeks, but of months or even years, a monumental investment of time and materials by someone who believed deeply in the value of what they were creating. That belief radiates from every page, regardless of whether we can ever share in its specific content. In this light, the manuscript's greatest gift may not be a solvable puzzle, but a preserved moment of pure, focused creativity. It allows us to witness a singular artistic vision frozen in time, asking not for our analysis but for our wonder. What does it mean to create something of such intricate beauty, knowing its full meaning might be lost? Perhaps the act of creation itself was the most important message. A silent declaration that some truths are best conveyed not through words we can argue with, but through beauty we can only feel. That faint signature in the margin, Jacobus Atepanes, is more than a name. It is a single link in a long, fragile chain. To understand the Voynich manuscript, we must become detectives of ownership, tracing its quiet journey from hand to hand across 5 centuries. This provenance is not just a dry list of names, it is a narrative of how a book's meaning can slowly evaporate, leaving behind only the beautiful, empty vessel. The story likely begins in a northern Italian workshop in the early 1400s, where the vellum was prepared and those first, confident strokes of strange script were laid down. For a time, it was a book with a purpose, its creator and its first audience sharing a language, literal or symbolic, that made its pages hum with intention. Then the trail goes cold for nearly 200 years, until it surfaces in the one place that makes perfect sense, the court of Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II in Prague. Rudolf, the obsessive collector of the arcane, is the manuscript's first documented admirer, though not necessarily its owner. Historical records suggest he may have acquired it for the astronomical sum of 600 gold ducats, a fortune paid not for knowledge, but for the profound mystery itself. In his Kunstkammer, the Cabinet of Wonders, it would have been a star attraction, a physical embodiment of the unknown that he so cherished. After Rudolf's passing, the book did not vanish. It simply stepped into a different circle, one of scholars equally fascinated by its impenetrability. By the early 1600s, it was in the possession of a Prague alchemist named Georg Bersch. Bersch was utterly baffled by it. Seeing the strange plants, he assumed it was a lost herbal, a book of forgotten botanical secrets. He even sent copies of its alphabet to a famed Jesuit scholar in Rome, Athanasius Kircher, pleading for help in unlocking its code. Bersch's letters are a poignant snapshot, the first time we hear a human voice explicitly stating, "I have this incredible thing, and I have no idea what it says." Kircher, a polymath known for his attempts to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphs, was intrigued. He requested the entire book, but Bersh, perhaps protective of his treasure, refused to send it. Upon Bersh's passing, the manuscript finally made its way to Kircher, bequeathed to him in the hope that the great decipherer would succeed where all others had failed. Kircher, however, added the Voynich to his own vast collection of curiosities, another unsolved puzzle among many. There is no record he ever made a serious attempt to crack it. This moment is a critical pivot in the manuscript's life. In the hands of Rudolf, it was a prized mystical artifact. For Bersh, it was a practical puzzle with potentially useful secrets. With Kircher, it became a specimen, an object of academic curiosity filed away. Its transition from a tool or a treasure to a mere curio was complete. From Kircher's collection, the book descended into the silent archives of the Jesuit order, likely housed at their college in Frascati, Italy. For over 250 years, it sat on a shelf, its strange pages turning from a contemporary mystery into a historical oddity. Its context evaporated. The intellectual world of Rudolf's court, the alchemical pursuits of Bersh, the scholarly networks of Kircher, all faded into history. The book remained, but the living memory of what it might have been did not. When Wilfrid Voynich extracted it from that Jesuit library in 1912, he was not recovering a known legend, he was rediscovering a ghost. Each owner in this chain left only the faintest trace, a note, a reference in a letter, a catalogue entry. Piecing this timeline together is an archaeology of attention. It reveals that the manuscript was always treated as valuable, but its perceived value subtly transformed with each century. From a possibly functional text to a royal marvel, to a scholar's frustration, to a forgotten library item, its meaning drifted into obscurity long before the physical book was ever lost. The provenance tells us a sobering truth. The Voynich manuscript became a mystery not because it was hidden, but because the world that understood it simply ceased to exist. The chain of custody is a chain of growing silence, where each link represents another generation further removed from the original whisper. The Voynich manuscript's stubborn silence has reshaped entire fields of study, not by yielding its secrets, but by defying every attempt to extract them. For linguists and cryptographers, this book is more than a mystery. It is a unique and relentless teacher. Its primary lesson has been a humbling one, the realization that our traditional tools for understanding language and code are insufficient for a challenge of this nature. This artifact from the 15th century has forced modern scientists to invent new ways of thinking. The manuscript became a perfect, if frustrating, test subject. Because it is a closed system, a complete book with no external key, researchers could not rely on comparing it to known texts or historical context in the usual way. They had to develop sophisticated statistical models just to describe what they were seeing. By analyzing the frequency of its strange words, the patterns of character combinations, and the structure of its paragraphs, they built a precise mathematical portrait of the text's behavior. This work, pioneered by figures like William Friedman after World War II, gave birth to new techniques in corpus linguistics, the study of language as a large set of data. These methods, refined on the Voynich, are now used to authenticate disputed writings, analyze the stylistic fingerprints of anonymous authors, and even detect early signs of cognitive change in a person's written work. The manuscript's resistance forged better tools for probing any text that stands outside the mainstream. In cryptography, the impact has been equally profound. The Voynich forced a fundamental shift. For decades, experts approached it as a classical cipher, a locked box where symbols simply replaced letters from a known language. The manuscript's refusal to break under this assumption revealed a deeper truth. Some codes are not locks at all, but entire new languages. This pushed cryptanalysis beyond code breaking and into the realm of language creation and recognition. How do you distinguish a brilliantly constructed artificial language from a genuine but lost natural one? The attempts to answer this question have advanced the study of steganography, the art of hiding messages, and the analysis of complex, non-linear encryption systems. The algorithms and pattern recognition software developed in the quest to understand the Voynich now help secure our digital communications, protecting financial transactions and private data from modern threats. In a beautiful irony, a book about possible Renaissance secrets now contributes to the science of contemporary secrecy. So while the manuscript's own code remains unbroken, the effort to crack it has strengthened our ability to protect and decipher other messages across time. It acts as an intellectual grinding stone, sharpening the very tools of inquiry against its own impenetrable surface. The blade is finer, more precise, and more versatile because of this centuries-long effort, even though it has not yet cut through the core of the mystery itself. This productive frustration is the manuscript's quiet, professional legacy, a reminder that the pursuit of an answer can be as valuable as the answer we may never find. Perhaps the most honest future we can imagine for the Voynich manuscript is one where its pages remain forever silent. We must seriously consider that this code may never be cracked, that this language may never be taught again. What becomes of a mystery when it outlives every attempt to solve it? Its legacy would then be something entirely different, not a solved puzzle but a permanent monument. It would stand as a sphinx without a riddle, or more accurately, a sphinx whose riddle is spoken in a tongue we have forgotten how to hear. This is not a failure of scholarship or imagination, but a different kind of outcome altogether. The artifact's primary function would subtly, irrevocably shift. No longer a vessel meant to convey specific information from its time to ours, it would transform into a machine for generating wonder, a catalyst for perpetual curiosity. Its blank meaning becomes its greatest asset, an empty canvas upon which every generation can project its own anxieties, its hopes, and its evolving questions about the nature of knowledge itself. In this speculative future, the manuscript is never finished. It is always becoming. For artists and writers, it remains an inexhaustible source of inspiration, a wellspring of imagery and concept that demands creative interpretation precisely because there is no authoritative text to contradict it. For philosophers, it is a concrete example of epistemological limits, a physical reminder that some channels of human thought and expression can be permanently severed by time. For scientists, it endures as the ultimate benchmark, a complex system that defines the outer edge of what our analytical tools can describe but not penetrate. This enduring enigma offers a unique kind of cultural service. In a world increasingly defined by instant access and definitive answers, the Voynich manuscript would persist as a sanctuary for the unanswered question. It protects the value of mystery in a data-saturated age. Its continued presence in our libraries and our collective imagination quietly argues that not everything needs to be solved to be valued, that the pursuit itself can be a form of wisdom. The book becomes a symbol not of a lost secret, but of the vast and beautiful unknown that still exists, even in our most carefully documented past. This future transforms the manuscript from a historical object into a timeless one. Its value is no longer contingent on a potential revelation waiting in its text. Its value is inherent in its enduring silence, a silence that speaks volumes about human creativity, persistence, and our complex relationship with the limits of our own understanding. The Voynich, in this light, is not a locked door. It is a mirror, and it will always show us who we are by revealing what we still long to know. The manuscript's cold, statistical mystery is warmed by the hands of those who have held it, both literally and in their minds. For over a century, the Voynich has not just puzzled experts, it has consumed lives, transforming casual curiosity into a lifelong, deeply personal quest. Behind every published paper and every failed algorithm is a human story, a narrative of obsession that is as much a part of the book's legacy as its unreadable text. Wilfrid Voynich, the man who gave the manuscript its name, was its first modern evangelist. After acquiring it in 1912, he did not simply lock it away as an investment. He spent the rest of his life promoting it, sending photographs of its pages to scholars across the globe, tirelessly seeking the one person who could see what he could not. For him, the book was not a mere artifact but a calling, a riddle he felt personally responsible for presenting to the world. His entire professional identity became intertwined with its mystery, a burden and a passion he carried until his passing. This pattern of profound personal investment repeats across generations. Consider the story of a retired American professor we will call James, though that is not his real name. James first encountered the Voynich in a magazine article in the 1970s. A trained mathematician, he saw its patterns as a solvable equation. What began as an evening's diversion became a 40-year project. He converted his garage into a study, its walls papered with charts mapping character frequencies and hypothesized word roots. He learned medieval Latin and studied herbal manuscripts, searching for a key. There were moments of soaring hope, nights where he would wake his wife, convinced he had seen a connection, a grammatical rule no one else had noticed. Each time the breakthrough would evaporate by morning, the pattern collapsing under further scrutiny. He watched as the internet age brought thousands of new minds to the puzzle, a community he both welcomed and viewed with a veteran's wary eye. James's story is not unique. In online forums, you meet people from all walks of life who have dedicated a decade or more to the manuscript. A nurse in Scotland spends her nights analyzing the star charts, comparing them to forgotten astrological texts. A software engineer in Brazil has written and rewritten a parsing algorithm hundreds of times, each iteration a little more sophisticated, each result just as silent. These individuals speak of the manuscript with a peculiar mix of affection and frustration. It becomes a companion, a white whale, a mountain that is always there, looming on the horizon of their thoughts. The pursuit forges unexpected communities and at times sparks intense rivalries. Online groups dedicated to the Voynich are vibrant, often fractious places. A new theory, posted with excitement, can be met with swift, brutal peer review from others who have spent years down that very same dead end. Friendships form between solvers across continents, bonded by shared obsession, while other discussions dissolve into accusations of closed-mindedness or stolen ideas. The manuscript, in its passive silence, becomes a mirror for human collaboration and conflict, for the noble and the petty sides of a shared intellectual passion. These personal narratives reveal something essential. The Voynich manuscript is more than a historical or cryptographic problem. It is a psychological artifact. It taps into a fundamental human drive, the need to solve, to complete the pattern, to hear the secret whispered just beyond understanding. For some, this drive becomes the central project of their lives, a quest that offers its own form of meaning, even in the absence of a final answer. Their stories are not footnotes to the mystery, they are its beating heart, a testament to the fact that the most compelling puzzles are not those that challenge our computers, but those that capture our souls. Even if its text remains silent, the Voynich manuscript speaks volumes about the world that created it. This book is a perfect mirror, reflecting the swirling, uncharted intellectual currents of the 15th century, a time before our modern categories of knowledge had hardened into separate disciplines. To its creator, there was no contradiction in placing a fantastical plant beside a zodiac wheel and a diagram of bathing nymphs. This was the pre-modern worldview, a unified vision of reality where what we call science, magic, and religion were not rivals, but different dialects of the same sacred language. Studying the cosmos was an act of both mathematical observation and astrological divination. Understanding a plant meant cataloging its physical form, its medicinal properties, and its symbolic meaning in a grand spiritual allegory. The manuscript does not separate these threads, it weaves them together on a single page, offering us a breathtaking snapshot of a mind that saw the universe as an interconnected whole, a single great work to be decoded. The book's very existence as an elaborate and deliberately encrypted object tells a parallel story about the social and intellectual climate of its era. This was an age of profound secrecy, where knowledge was both a powerful treasure and a dangerous liability. Networks of alchemists, hermetic philosophers, and early scientists often operated in shadow, sharing discoveries through coded correspondence and symbolic texts to avoid persecution. Powerful institutions viewed new ideas about nature, the cosmos, or the human body with deep suspicion as challenges to established doctrine. Creating a book like the Voynich was not an eccentric hobby, it was likely a necessary act of protection. The act of encoding it speaks to a culture steeped in the fear of heresy, where committing certain truths to plain writing could invite severe consequences. The manuscript itself becomes a testament to the courage, or the caution, required to pursue knowledge at the edges of the acceptable. By studying its beautiful, baffling pages, we are not just hunting for a secret message, we are conducting an archaeology of Renaissance curiosity. Each section reveals a core preoccupation of the time. The botanical pages show a fierce desire to catalog, master, and find utility in the natural world. The celestial wheels map an urgent need to find humanity's place within a vast and ordered cosmos, to read our fate in the stars. The biological and pharmaceutical sections, with their nymphs and jars, demonstrate a deep yearning to understand the inner workings of the human body, to heal its ailments, and perhaps even to transcend its limits. These were the great projects of the era, and the Voynich manuscript captures them all, frozen in a moment of ambitious, secretive inquiry. Ultimately, the book's greatest historical value may lie not in what it hides, but in what it openly displays, the shape of the questions being asked. It shows us that the drive to understand our world is ancient and multifaceted, blending observation with imagination, chemistry with ceremony, and anatomy with allegory. The Voynich manuscript, in its glorious, frustrating totality, preserves the silhouette of a forgotten way of thinking, a reminder that the path to knowledge has always been winding, often secret, and illuminated by many different kinds of light. Our journey through the labyrinth of the Voynich manuscript reveals that its true value may not lie in a future decipherment, but in the questions it forces us to ask about history, language, and the human mind. It is a testament to the enduring power of mystery, a physical embodiment of the phrase ignoramus et ignorabimus, we do not know and we shall not know. As we close this book, remember that some puzzles are not meant to be solved quickly, if at all. They are meant to be pondered to inspire awe and humility. If you found this exploration of the unreadable manuscript captivating, consider subscribing for more deep dives into history's greatest enigmas, and share your own theories in the comments below. The conversation is, like the manuscript itself, forever ongoing.